Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Goodman, Director of Marketing and Development for the YMCA of Northwest Louisiana. We're here at 318 Latino Studios for Shreveport-Bossier, my city, my community, my home. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jazzed to have today's guest and discussion. Our very extremely special guest is Brad Neffendorf. Brad, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me.
Oh, man, I'm super excited to have you and appreciate you making the time. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in, hopefully, to all things Brad Neffendorf. So you recently completed the greatest season in baseball history, 59-0. LSUS Baseball's first national championship and the first national championship at LSUS in any sport. Clearly, you're doing something very right. So rather than rehash the season, which I know you've done in countless interviews, I'd rather spend today just getting your thoughts and perspectives on a few different things. So let's start here. You were hired in early 2020, and when your hiring was announced, LSUS AD Lucas Morgan called you a quote-unquote winner. So my first question for you is, what does being a winner mean to you, both for yourself and if you were using that word to describe one of your players?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways that you can look at winning, and we try to get our guys through the process. Everybody uses that word, but what we do on and off the field and in the classroom, just getting them to develop into being the best version of themselves, and that includes the coaching staff. Obviously, culture is big for us, and I think if you have the right culture, you're going to have the chance to win and win at a high level, and ultimately, we're using what we're doing as a platform for getting them to continue with whatever they advance on in life to win and win in everything that they do. And that requires, a standard. It requires an expectation, both that are at an ultimate high level. And I want players that want to be a part of that. I want coaches that want to be a part of that. It's the word investment is big in our program.
Let me interrupt. Yeah. This is kind of a strange question, but how do you know, like when you're looking at someone, how do you know what their potential is, or how do you know what the best version of that person is?
I think you can notice traits with them and just certain things with them right away. I mean, that's a really good question, and I think there's things that can't even be explained about how you view some things with those guys. There's things that can't be explained on a daily basis of how we relate to them. I can sit here and explain to you ways that we recruit and ways that we identify things, but there's things that pop out to you on a daily basis that, I believe everybody has leadership qualities about them. That's one thing that was unique about this year's team is we finally got a lot of that out of guys. It's a good question, but I think those things identify themselves over time.
It's an instinct, though, like for you, like you're sitting with someone and I've got a feeling about this person. Yeah, and
I've got an extreme problem with attention to detail, which locks me, obviously your positives can be your negatives, and it locks me in on things that I'm always looking, because our job is to get the most out of guys and, create the best version of themselves. Is obviously that's something that with us as well as we're developing as coaches and people, it helps us a lot to do that with them. But yes, I would say, the instincts piece, there's things that pop out all the time, the only way you're going to get that out of somebody, though, and I'd really identify it and then grab it and hone it in and get it to explode on the level that we want it to, is they got to know you care. I'll go back to the word investment. Investment is huge. I think, we tell our guys, there's a level of investment that needs to be put in with everything that we do, but we've got to show that level to them in order to get them to do it. Once they start investing in things and you get them to up the level of investment, things start coming out at a level that ultimately puts them in a position to develop.
And how do you know, a lot of times when I hear people talk about winners or talking about winning, they talk about what happens at those critical times, like what happens when a game is tight. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you know when you're looking at someone, is this person going to get tight, or is this person going to excel when the pressure is at its highest?
Well, I think there's two different things to this. If we're looking at who we recruit and guys that we bring in, that's tough to find anymore. I think you got to try to get them from as many winning programs as you possibly can, so they're used to, those moments where they win. And we had some big moments with some big things that happened in big moments this year, with some big home runs and some big pitches that were executed by guys that have been a part of national title teams in other programs at other levels. you try to go get as many winners as you possibly can, but that's not always possible anymore. I think that is developed in practice, in what we do, the standard that we have, in everything that we do. I don't want it to sound bad, but when we get these guys early in the year, we don't let them breathe. And I don't mean that in the wrong way. That's where we test them. And I don't mean that we don't, like, we're on them like a military, this is what you got to do in everything we do. But yes, the standard is set, and we're breaking habits with these guys. When you can get the habits broke and get them used to doing habits that create winners, or put them in situations that we know in those type moments throughout the year, we're going to get better at, how we react and how we execute in those moments. It works itself out.
Can you give me an example of a habit you break, or someone's bad habit that?
Yes. We don't have rules. We have expectations. Things that we ask them to do, just like us. We're asked to do things, from the university, from, whether it's the other side of campus or the athletic department or whatever it may be. If we don't do what we're asked to do, it don't work out well for us. So I test them right away when they get on campus. There's things that I ask them, first meeting for us this year is going to be August 24th. It'll probably be a long, grueling meeting for some, because they've never been, a part of a program that asks as much as we do. I'll give them 2 things they got to bring back to me by 12 o'clock noon the next day that they've probably already given me before, but they don't realize it. They got to read through our manual of what we ask of them. They got to bring a sheet of paper back to us, and there's a lot that won't bring it in by 12 because they've never been asked to by 12. Well, there's going to be a repercussion for that. We hammer so much of that type of stuff week one, but when week one they understand it when week one is done, and we haven't even started on the field yet. So some of those are the things where guys have been allowed prior to our place. And I'm not saying what we do is right or wrong. I'm not saying what other people do is right or wrong. But for us, with what we believe translates to the field, to the classroom, and outside it, and what they're going to do in life, they got to get used to being able to do the things that people ask them to do. And we give them as much as we overload them. With everything else that we got going on week one, we overload them with things that's, as part of the transition process that I know that they might forget. But the more they get used to being organized, and when their feet hit the ground in the morning, they got a routine that leads them to being successful. You'll see that quickly change over a week, and then we know it's going to translate to the field. If we get guys that can't do the simple things that we ask them to do outside the field, they're going to, in a big moment, they're going to forget what to do. And those are the guys that end up not playing or making it very far in our program.
All right. Well, this is going to be my most baseball specific question. You've coached countless pitchers who signed professional contracts. Why do pitchers, in your opinion, flourish under your guidance?
Well, it's obviously been the one position that I have, when you look at my career in this profession, coaching.
And you were a pitcher, right?
Yeah.
I know you had a lot of shoulder problems.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you got it down. I think it's kind of just the things that I just talked about. Obviously as a program, we're very demanding with what we do. We're demanding on ourselves as coaches, but with the pitching staff, like, those guys are, the one thing I've always said, they're up there on that circle by themselves. There might be 8 other defenders on that field with them, but they're up there on a lonely circle by themselves, and everybody's relying on them executing pitches. So, obviously you got to have the right ones. You got to have the right athletic ability, the right arm, the right tool set, skill set that has a chance to be able to go on and, pitch at the next level. But I'd say the main thing is I put them in a format that's not easy every day. It's demanding. I'm constantly reminding them, or have days where I don't say as much, and they're sitting there, why don't you say much today? Well, this is your day. I think there's a trust factor in there where they know that we're invested, we care. But you got to relate it the right way, and you're developed with them to get them to understand, I'm truly, I may be on you, but what I'm asking you to do and how we're trying to do it is ultimately to try to, from day one in the fall when you guys get here, to put you in a position to be successful. And it's different for every guy. How we go about each guy in the fall is, based off them, their stuff, how they're going to be able to use that to get both sides of the plate out, right and left-handed hitters. But obviously identifying the right ones that fit what we're trying to do. And it's getting tougher. There's, the average velocity, I think 95 plus now in the major league, the MLB. So, we've just seen some of them take off. We got like the guy that we just had signed with the Pirates, and we've had him for 3 years, but he's 6'4", 225. He's been up to 96, but it took a while to get him to be able to learn how to pitch. Most of them are throwers that we get. Well, we like going getting throwers with big arms and good stuff and training them how to pitch. And, hopefully the body continues to mature and they get in the right situation with the right people that see them. They come back and watch them again. And, the other thing is they got to be winning programs. Like, the more they win, the more they're going to come and watch, because people want winners. Draven Ziegler that just signed with the Pirates was 31-2 in his career with us. Well, when you take the stuff and the athletic ability and the amount of that he's won, I mean, come on, that's the deal. They got to be able to, they're getting guys that eventually, if they make it to the major league level, it is that put them in a position to play deep into the year and have a chance to win a World Series.
Yeah, I was interested. I heard you talk about how important your rides home are after practice, and how you're kind of replaying everything that happened during the day and what you did right, maybe what you need to adjust and correct. And so I'm going to take you on a tangent for a second. I come from a film and theater background, so one of my mentors in that space was this theater director who's not with us, unfortunately, any longer, but he was all about trying to push people and get the best out of them. And I'll never forget one day, early on in my career, I was watching him push an actor who wasn't giving him what he thought they were capable of, and he kept pushing and pushing, so much so that the person finally exploded and was upset and stormed out and didn't come back. And he realized, like, his instincts were wrong, like he had pushed too far or used the wrong tools. And so all that to say, like, how often does something like that happen to you as you're trying to maximize and optimize each and every one of these guys that you're overseeing?
Obviously, it's individual based. You got to figure out who you can and can't do those things with, because everybody reacts and everybody's got to be coached and led in a different way. And, I've tried to learn as much as I can with our job is to understand people and learn people, obviously built through relationships and the ability to communicate and trust and care and investment, all those things I've already talked about. You got to get to a point where you know when to stop with somebody, but there have been maybe one case every 5 years where, like, and I'm okay with this. Like, our players, very rarely we get anybody that has, a disrespect level with anything they do, but there will be times where, kind of like what you just said, I might push somebody a little bit farther to see how they're at, and I'm okay with them firing back at me. And, as long as it's done the right way, because I'm trying to get that out of them to know, hey, man, look, like, I'm fine with it. Like, I've been trying to get this fire out of you the entire time, and that's what it's going to take for you to go out there and be a little bit more successful and finally get to a level. So I'll push them, and we push the whole team in a certain way, the individuals a little bit differently. I've had a couple of our best players over the last few years that it's taken me, they're like, they don't let you in. They don't let anybody in. And it's taken me a couple of years to realize, hey, I can't get on them at all. Stay out of their way and let them go. They're doing everything else right, and they've gotten better. Let them go. And we saw a couple this year take off like there was no tomorrow. So, understanding people is tough. And it can be tough for people to understand me at times. So I will do that, but obviously it's individual based, and you just really got to have it's like people say, you got to read the room, right? You got to read the room and you got to read the individual.
Do you, just out of curiosity, you're carrying, what'd you say, like close to 40 players a year?
Yeah, and give or take a couple.
Do you have, with all 40 of those players, at least one-on-one interaction or encounter every season?
Oh, yeah, multiple. This year it'll probably, be like it was 2 years ago, where we had, obviously if you look at 2 years ago, we had a lot of guys this year that this is their last year. Well, they were all new a couple of years ago. So part of the process of understanding them, which allows you to coach them and lead them. I will even have a couple of days straight where, individual meetings right away with those new guys, even returners, just to kind of feel some things out. Because look, I can be coached by those players as well. All right, they can impact me as much as I can with them, and you got to be okay with hearing the stuff that nobody wants to hear. I want them to tell me as well. So, especially returners informing me on what we liked and what we didn't like last year, and we'll take a lot of that into account. So
you'll sit down with an individual player and say, "Hey, you're coming back from last season. Tell me what worked for you and what didn't."
Yes, and we have about three set total meetings a year. When they get there, midway through,
one-on-one. These are all just you and this player.
Yeah, and other coaches in there as well. You got the beginning of the year, after the fall is done, where they're at, where we think they, where they fit, and then
are you videoing these, or you're
no,
but you're taking some notes, mental notes.
Yeah, and trust me, there's things that we said you never forget. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of individual meetings. Look, I'll be honest with you, we had about a dozen kids this year that they were needed more than just one or two times. I had so many kids this year that didn't know their parents, didn't have a dad, didn't have a mom, didn't have parents at all. A couple that had parents that have been in jail for it's unbelievable. I know we got a couple more, and so those are the ones where, they might resist you a little bit, but they're we're their everything. You know what I mean? So you gotta it's individually based as well. There's guys that you have to meet with a lot more, but especially those type of guys, you got to be doing it more because you never know. I mean, their days can fluctuate with how they feel about things more than anybody else, and it just happened to be. I mean, the longer I've been in this, and I don't know what it has to do with, we're starting to get a lot more kids that unfortunately are missing somebody in their life that they've never, and those are the ones we're understanding them, what you can and what you can't say and do with them. But those ones sometimes need the tough love more than anything because they've never had anybody to really set a standard with them about how things, and they're really good kids, they are, but they're looking for somebody. So, the meetings are all obviously individually based, and look at the coaching staff. We meet as a coaching staff every morning to end the day as well. Our team would be nothing if we weren't organized with how we can communicate and on the same page. So there's a lot of meetings that go on throughout the year, but I think they're as important as anything that we do.
All right. Well, you recently received the Skip Bertman Coach of the Year award, honoring the nation's top coach from any level of college baseball. In speaking about the award, you said that Coach Bertman embodied everything a great leader and coach should represent. So, aside from everything you just talked about, in your opinion, what makes someone a great leader and coach?
Their ability to relate, their ability to communicate, their ability to demand and stick to who they are, their ability to get people around them to understand this is why we do it and this is how we're going to do it. Their ability to develop trust, care. I think their work ethic, I can tell you players respect and will eventually come out and tell you, I don't work hard to get players to tell me that as an example, hey man, you really work. I do it because that's what they deserve. They deserve somebody that I'm going to bring you here to play in this program. You're going to get everything you can possibly think from me. I'm going to go above and beyond. That's my job. So I think when you look at somebody like that, obviously, I wasn't around him on the field, but I think the success speaks for itself. I think anybody that has that amount of success has a lot of similar, there's things that you can't explain what they do. That's impossible. I think, there's things that I do that I can't explain why or how I do it, even if it doesn't have anything to do with coaching. That person at the highest level of college baseball, Skip, had multiple College World Series titles. All right. And what he did was built off obviously people before him, but what he did is now paved the way for what they're doing again right now. Just their ability to structure, to organize, to demand, to, our job with everything we do, the X's and O's, that'll be taken care of on the field. But how a team executes and the success that they have with the players they have is ultimately a byproduct of everything else that they do. I can't tell you how many teams we've been a victim of it, having really good teams that at the end of the year don't perform at the level we want it to. Now, there can be a lot of different factors that kick in, but when you're doing it over and over and over, they're embodying something that everybody, those are the people that we watch, how they relate to kids, how they are in the dugout during games, how, if you can go there and watch them practice every day, how are they relating to the kids? How are they communicating it? How are they doing anything? You can go give me a list right now of 20 things that we believe the highest and most qualified and most successful leaders, he probably checks the boxes on all of them.
All right, Coach. Well, all of us face adversity at different times in our lives. In the final game, after going 58-0, your team went down early, 4-0. What I'd like you to do is share some of your thought process in that moment in hopes of helping all of us deal with adversity better when we inevitably face it. Also, what do you think your team's process was at that point or at that time to push through the challenges and early difficulties in the championship game?
I'll start with the players. If you're to be in the dugout, and it's ultimately what helped me. I don't want to use the word relax, but just kind of dude, stop. Because inside you're sitting there looking at it. We've gone 58-0, and this is the worst first 4 innings that we've played all year. Even though we came back at one point, made it 5-4, absolutely nothing was going our way. I remember looking at my assistant at one point. I go, "You got to be kidding me right now! We just dimed this team in 10 run them 2 days ago. And in the final game this year, what could have been, they would have had to beat us twice. Literally, this is a game where it's going to end. And I mean, that's the way it is. But then, you look down to your left and you see players, they're acting the same. I would say what sums up that entire game and us being down and coming back and in the end, if you look at 13-7, looks, somewhat of a blowout. It wasn't. It was a blowout in the last 3 innings of the game, or what we call the final third. Their ability to trust each other, their ability to play as one unit. You watched it all year long, and you knew I just remember after I said that to them, I looked out on my left, and they were acting the same that they had for every pitch and every frame and every inning the entire year. And I just kind of chuckled, and I said, what the heck would I even worry? Like, there's nothing to worry about. And, you worry because you don't want something of what they've done. And it's not really a worry. It's more of a, could this really happen? You don't want anything to get in the way of what they've already done. I mean, the game before they set another national record, to be 58-0. You don't want anything to get in the way of that because you want to ultimately see them complete what they've already put in position on the entire year. So that's why you kind of, not for myself, like, sure, I'm a part of it, but there's 26 guys in that dugout, like that's our postseason roster, that are a few innings away, halfway of another game. They're going to do something nobody's ever done before. But when you look at them, they weren't worried about it one bit at all. So it was one of those deals where you've got to trust what is happening, and it might not go, but we still had another game. Adversity is adversity. Everybody deals with it. Our guy that I worked for had a term that he always used: improvise and overcome. Well, the improvise on that was just sit back and let it happen. And I had a couple moments where I don't know what the word was, agitated, like a little ticked off about things that were not that we weren't doing, that were going against us. And finally, I brought the guys up. I was like, look, let's, there ain't nothing to worry about. You guys aren't worried about it. We're not. Like, let's just go. Let's get. All it's going to take is one inning on offense. Get the leadoff on, go out, score, come out, put up a 0. We'll take off. Sure enough, they went out, scored a couple, put up a 0, and all it took was 1-0, and it was the rest of the way. Coaches, we talked at one point, hey, the only way we're going to win this thing is if we don't show any sort of, negative emotion, or that we're freaking out or we're stressing. We're good. Let's keep going. And I mean, everything was good from like the 4th inning on. So, to get in those situations, I mean, you're trained. You look at Marines and all, they train to be able to react the right way in those moments. And our guys, I believe, were prepped and trained and put in enough situations throughout the entire year, and with the trust and the care that they had for each other, that took them the rest. I mean, there was nothing even to worry about.
Do you have any military background yourself, or
no? I might act like it with my extreme attention to detail and organization at times, but no, not a lick of it. No, I mean, I know people that have, but a part of me wishes I did for like a week or two, just to kind of, you can read books about it, you can watch movies on it. Those are different breeds. Those are wild animals that, I mean, in a good way. Like, those guys they're the best of the best. So, but I think there are some similarities, when you get down and break down the similarities between them and successful teams, coaches, individual players. I think there's probably a lot of similarities, with the toughness, the resilience, the training, the preparation, that all. Like, again, once again, you go back and look at all the successful people in anything that they do. It doesn't matter what they are. There's similar traits that lead them all to the same thing.
In speaking about this year's team, you said that they became incredibly close, extremely quick. Talk to me, if you could, about some of the factors you attribute to the team's quick and strong process of bonding with one another.
They took advantage of their time together. We always talk about the locker room is the one thing that you have. All right. They spent a lot of time in that locker room before practice, after practice, during the day. Whether it's all of them in there, whether it's a group of them in there, I would attribute a lot of it to, we had 24 returners, I think it was, from the year before. They did an incredible job of bringing our 15, 16, 17, I can't remember what the official number was, new transfers in, getting them to understand what we do, how we do it. They probably hung out a lot. Like, I don't get in their business unless they give me a reason to, but probably off the field, whatever they did, they found a way to do it together. We're big on playing as one unit. which can be tough at any level, especially college baseball anymore with all the new rules and the transfer portal, and guys can transfer whenever they want. Very tough to maintain culture. I got to, give a lot of credit to the returning players that we had. Their investment and their care for what we do and how we do it, they grabbed onto it and they took it this year. So I would say a lot of that came down to them. And then you got to give credit to the new guys that came in and committed to it and realized, hey, this is how they do things. Because you got to give credit to the other guys as well, because they had to do something to join in and be a part of it. It was a unique deal. There's things I can't explain about it. And what I mean is how they form so quickly, because you get a fall, right? You get the end of August when we meet. And then that first week is introducing them to everything, giving them things that they've got to do. They've got physicals, they've got classes, they've got new student meeting, student athlete meetings, fundraise. We start fundraising. We're not even on the field yet, so that's kind of where they get to learn to interact. And guys, it can take a month for somebody to understand somebody's first and last name. You try to get them to understand where guys are from, everything, who they are, but we let the players take that over. And I think our players did an incredible job of opening up this year and trying to understand each other. Because when you can understand each other off the field really well, you're going to be able to understand on the field. But, we demand, the way we coach is audio and visual. I would think that our guys did, just with how we execute things, a really good job with communicating audio-wise, verbal-wise, on the field this year. When you get comfortable doing that, the level of demand and investment, it just continues to grow. So I would say that's what a lot of it came from with these guys.
When you say audio and visual, so what's the visual aspect?
It could just be the way that we communicate with hands. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know what the terminology is for. I'm not smart in the classroom. Geez, somebody help me out here. But, just things that how we communicate, ways that we execute things on it. Yeah, geez Louise. It's pathetic. I didn't know that. But they did a really good job with both of those this year. But I would say the biggest thing of getting these, they're so used to, and everybody says it, social media and this and that. Our guys, all I heard was this nonstop the entire year. And I didn't hear that as much in the past. So that locker room, you almost want to go double-doored at times because there was so much loud chatter going on in there. But I knew, when I heard that halfway through the fall, I was like, man, this team, they love being around each other. To a point where when I talked about it and answered it this year, they literally loved being around each other. And so, what do you mean by that? They just did. It was their thing. They and go out and watch them play on the field together. Our job is to get them, with everything that we're trying to get them to execute on the field, they got to be able to do it together. And everybody knows that in anything you do. But to get that many guys to go do it at the level that we did, you have to give the utmost praise to those players, because it's their choice whether they want to do it or not. We can do everything we want as coach, but if players don't want to, it ain't gonna happen.
I wasn't even gonna ask you this, but you said it, so I want to go there for a second. I'm just curious, what is your perspective for your rules around devices, and phones? How do you handle that with your players? Can they have them at practice, or just what are kind of the guidelines when it comes to phones and practice and game time?
Well, they've got, obviously, I'll just start when we meet, because we meet typically in the locker room, and I trust them that they're going to be off, and kids will record anything anymore. Obviously, I try not to ever put myself in a position that I say anything that's going to piss somebody off and recording. If I come in the locker room, you're going to have them, but they're not out, you're not on them, and I better, they know, and it'll happen every year. And I'll even hear them when I'm walking. Make sure, somebody will say, return, make sure your phones are off. He better not hear it. It'll happen 5 minutes in. Somebody forgot to turn the ringer off, and here I go right away. They can't have them on around us. They can't have them on the field. They can't have them in the dugout. They can do anything else they want with it. The only thing is, the pitching staff, there's a new software out there. Well, I guess you can call it a software, an application that some guys at the big league level that are physical therapists now that created an arm care deal that, for pitchers. Now, obviously, the whole entire program can use it, but you pay for each individual to have this. Well, it is an app on the phone that has videos. It's individually based. The whole program is set per guys. They have to have it when they do it. So I allow the pitchers, when you go and do it, it's called armored heat. When you go and do your armored heat prior to practice, or their arm prep, you can have it with you the second you're done. You sprint it in, take the cleats off, and put it in. And they do. They know when they're after practice, they got to go get it again because they're doing it. So that's the only time that you'll see a phone. And I'll be the first to tell you, though, and I tell them as well, my phone's on me at all times. So I might even have it on me a game. I mean, there might be a situation somebody's got to get a hold of me to tell a player, hey, something unfortunately happened. They need you. And that's happened before with other instances. So I'll have mine on me. Part of that is we're recruiting all the time. So if I got to get with a big recruit and send a text back in the middle of the game or in between innings, I'm going to do it. I also check scores of other games at times. But we don't have to necessarily – it's gotten to a point where most kids know. Now, there are some programs that let them have whatever they want. Well, we don't. We're trying to eliminate as many distractions as we possibly can. Like I've probably heard me say before, this is a world of distractions, and especially for young guys. And that's the biggest deal. We have to, with breaking those habits, we're eliminating distraction as much as possible. That phone is the biggest distraction in the world. It is for me too. So, it's a good question. They're allowed it whenever they want, unless it's in that dugout, unless it's a pitcher. They're not on the field. They're not in their bags. And some will try to sneak it at times. They know that they better not let us catch them. But, the biggest deal is we go on a road trip, we might not have an opposing locker room, so it's going to be in their bags. And I don't care, like between a doubleheader or, before the game starts or BP's over with or we took out, they can get on their phone for a little bit doing that. I'm fine with that. Like our guys, when we're done doing BP or early work before a game, they're in and out of our locker room until 5 minutes before the game. So I'm fine with it. And hell, these guys can't stay away from 1 second texting their girlfriend either. So, it's one of those deals where I've had to also the give and take a little bit. I'm not trying to control everything that they do, but once we start what we're doing, that thing's out.
All right, you once said the following, this is a quote I pulled from you. You once said, a lot of cities are built off something, but it's the athletic piece is what takes it over the top. Mm-hmm. I know how important sports can be for a town's identity, its self-esteem, and just for bringing everyone together. So my final formal question for you today is, how can we make LSUS sports and all the incredible things you're doing part of more of our community's lives?
I think it's a great question. I think if you looked at what happened with us this year and if we kind of helped spearhead it, I'm fine with that. Like if another program did it on campus, I'm fine with it as well. But you saw how packed the celebration was down here, the following that we had, and obviously the national attention we got, I think helped some of that. But we were in a position where we've always got decent crowds. We didn't get the crowds that we got like we did this year until I think we were like 40-0, and now all of a sudden that certain national records are kicking in. You got Centenary here. You've got Bipsy here. You got plenty of high schools. You've got us, but nobody knows about it enough because it's small college athletics. If it's major college athletics, there's billboards everywhere. There's TVs everywhere. There's a presence with that. There's a lot of money involved. People want to donate. They want to help. They want to see, and it gives them something to go do. I think maybe that we have helped out a little bit, but it's a deal where we can go in the athletics as much as we possibly want. Our kids can get out and do community service or be involved with things. But it's got to be a deal where even with our school doing what they're doing to put it out there, it's what's that residual effect or whatnot, where it just keeps going, right? I think what we did this year helped out a little bit. We're obviously starting to continue to get, from things like this to just people that contact me that want to, maybe help with something or whatnot. And what people don't understand is, our athletic department has been exceptional for years. So was our baseball program. Nobody had ever played in a national title game, period, until we did this year or won it. But the athletics have been unbelievable. It's still kind of on the same level. I think this helped put it over the top. Basketball has been a game away from playing a national title. That was our third game, until we got to it this year. Baseball in actually 2003, 2012. 2022 and this year, you were a game away from playing for national. That's how tough it is. So I think it's just now that we've finally done what we've done, I think it'll help get it out there a little bit more, and people are going to start being a little bit more on alert. It's tough to answer that because always money is something that's involved with promoting it, and I'm fine. I'd let everybody come to our games for free. I don't we charge $10 for it. I'm trying to think of all sorts of things that we can do this year, especially, with the little kids. We had so many kids in our dugout. I'm fine with it after games, before games. And luckily there wasn't a game that we lost this year where you don't, you know what I mean? But I think there's got to be ways to involve, and I think our university has done a good job with that, but we've got to continue to keep promoting as well and making it an opportunity where it involves the little ones, because parents want to bring them and give their kids something to do. So I don't know. I just think it's got to continue to keep growing. What are the ways? I don't know. Media and PR helps with that, a tremendous amount. But there's only so much, with the money you have to be able to do that type of stuff. So we'll see. I mean, maybe we'll just continue to keep growing itself now. I'm not a professional at answering that one. I just know that money and winning is a major part of that anywhere you go.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I'm so grateful to have you here today. I feel so fortunate to have this opportunity to sit down with you and just really learn from you more than anything. Are there any other areas or things that you'd want to get into or say or share? I mean, I am in awe of what you've done. I think the whole town should be showing up every time you have a home game, just because clearly you've built something that we should all be just extraordinarily proud of, and we can all feel good about. But is there any, I mean, you don't have to, but is there anything else you want to get into or say today?
No, I think I would just finish it with, number one, I really appreciate, what you're saying. And obviously our job, we have been taking the resources that we've been given and the success that's been in the program and done what we can to continue to keep elevating, because there's been years of success. I think we've done a good job of being able to take what the program had done prior to us being there. It's going to be in year 36 this year. But it all comes down to the people that you have. And, I think we've had really good people, really good players, really good support. And our job is to keep, putting a product out there that pulls in the right people, but you got to have the right people set in place. And I think this program has for years. You got to give a lot of credit to the university for, who they've brought in with those people. And then us being those people have had to do what we've had to do to get the right ones that can come in and continue to keep growing it. So I don't know, it'll be a lot of different faces this year. But it's all going to come down if we get the right people in there. And that's a lot. And I'm okay with it. Everything's, ultimately going to come down on me if we don't have those right people. But that gets to that point if we don't do as a coaching staff what we're supposed to do with bringing them in and getting them to a level with those habits and distractions and everything that we talk from investment and care, relationships. Hopefully, we've done our job to continue to keep growing and developing. I think we have a chance to be really good this year. No. Do I believe, the impossible was made possible this year? Do I believe that'll happen again? It wouldn't shock me if we lost the first game of the year this year, because what people keep talking about, hey, we got to continue that streak. Well, I mean, it's already a streak that's probably, never, going to be ever. I mean, it's ridiculous. I still don't know how to comprehend it, but, our job is, I think we got the right people coming in again this year, and we're just looking to have another successful year. I think we got a chance to be very good.
Well, I know you will be. You've got the routine, and I know you're getting the best out of everyone that's around you. And what I most admire is I think you're going to continue getting the best out of yourself and continue pushing yourself when most of us would get complacent or go on vacation or just tap out for a while.
I won't sleep at night if I don't. If I get to that point, it's time for me to get out. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Coach.
No,
thanks
thank
for
you.
being here.
All right.